Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the latest webinar in our series of presentations designed to help Kansas companies expand their exports. Today, we will focus on expanding your international market research. This session is particularly exciting as our presenters will go over some of the online tools that are available for you to use. My name is Jeff Willis, and I am the Director of the International Division here at the Kansas Department of Commerce. I will be your MC for today's event. This session will be recorded and will be accessible via our website once it has been posted. We look forward to any questions you may have, so please don't hesitate to post them at any time in the chat box. Towards the end of the program, we will go over your questions and hopefully have some good answers for you. So again, don't hesitate to pose your questions at any time in the chat box. Now, before we get started, I want to draw everyone's attention to the Kansas Governor's Exporter of the Year call for nominations that is now underway. Please go to our website for more information about how to nominate an outstanding Kansas exporter so that, should they win, they can be recognized for all that they do to contribute to the Kansas economy. Both of our speakers today have been helping Kansas companies expand globally for many years. Both are part of an important network in the state of Kansas, our Small Business Development Centers. These centers help Kansas small businesses with a whole host of business planning and execution strategies. Today, we will focus on international market research. I encourage you to get in touch with either of our speakers should you wish to follow up on anything you learn about today, as I'm sure they would be very happy to hear from you. Our first speaker is Mr. John Adesi. John is a business advisor with Johnson County Community College's Kansas Small Business Development Center, assisting Kansas entrepreneurs in Johnson, Miami, and Wyandotte counties to start and grow their businesses. He has consulted with over 1,800 Kansas businesses and individuals as a SBDC, Kansas Small Business Development Center consultant with both Washburn University and Johnson County Community College. John's focus is on job creation, access to capital, and international trade, with a love of marketing as well. Now, John teaches entrepreneurship at Johnson County Community College as an adjunct instructor and provides free, confidential, one-to-one consultation to current or prospective business owners on topics such as financing, business planning, marketing, e-commerce, international trade, and more. Is a NASBITE CGBP certified global business professional, as John mentioned, and serves on the board of governors of NASBITE International. She is the assistant state director of the Kansas Small Business Development Center, a role in which she develops programs, partnerships, and services with an emphasis on growing businesses in Western Kansas. Previously, she was vice president of entrepreneurship and small business with Go Topeka, where she created and managed programs for entrepreneurial ecosystem development and small business support. She introduced the Global Markets Matching Grant to Go Topeka's Small Business Incentive Program and worked with local businesses to help them access support resource and grants related to international trade and innovation. She enjoys working on market research and international business plan creation and collaborating with resource partners to assist small businesses with new market entry. And again, we're extremely happy to have both Lori as well as John here presenting to you today. They're both quite experienced in the field, and so sit back and enjoy, I guess interact as they indicated. But I'll toss it back to you.
Kansas Commerce, of course, for contributing substantially to the Kansas Department Small Business Development Center. And you've been with us from the start. We're under the SBA. And as Jeff mentioned, I'm with Johnson County Community College, and Lori is now with Fort Hays State University. So what we're looking for, and when we present this next week, we're talking to other advisors, but you can just cross out advisors and put in boss sometimes, or your own board, or your own decision making. We're looking at a deliverable of, from all the countries in the world, getting that down to a far more concise list of 10 or 20, and then further using some of the tools that are out there, which, by the way, are not at any cost. I think everything I'm going to show you today is absolutely free, which is amazing. And you're going to see the depth of what's available out there. But narrowing that down maybe to the top 3 or 5 And then some resources of, well, great, if we determine that the UAE is a really terrific market for you, and you're like, well, I don't know anyone there, John, we'll show you some folks at the U.S. Commercial Service, for example, or Kansas Commerce that can facilitate meetings there. I will assure you that you have stumbled upon people that will do everything they can to facilitate this process, make this profitable for you, and in many cases, in the case of Kansas Commerce, oh my gosh, pay for some of the stuff like from the U.S. Commercial Service that you might need. So anyway, that's the process, kind of developing a short list. And we just used this process at the World Trade Center in KC. They had a fabulous cohort last fall, and we got another one starting up really soon of the Heartland Export Accelerator. And what we were struck by was how much you could get done in half an hour in some cases. And so we're going to do that live here. And so we did this in 2 levels, quick wins and deep dives. We're mixing metaphors, but we had to get the Chiefs on there, right? And so we're really looking at what we can do really quickly. I want to show you how much you can bring to bear. And it starts with trying to figure out what your commodity code is. These have different names. There's Lori. And Lori, when you're up and ready on this thing, we can kick it off. Everything that you could possibly make or export has a number ranging from 6 to 10 digits. You're going to hear it called a HTS code, Harmonized Tariff System code. You're going to hear it named as a Schedule B number, but there's 6 to 10 numbers, and everything that you could possibly export has one of these numbers. And we're going to start basically there. Lori, up and running?
Can you hear me?
I can indeed.
Okay. Apologize for the technical difficulties. So as John was saying, to get started in this, it's incredibly helpful if you have your HS code or your Schedule B code. You can use the link that we have here to go through the chapters to have a better understanding of what's going on. But the basic idea is let's at least make sure that you have that 6-digit code, if not the full 10-digit code from the Schedule B, so that you can start doing some research.
So I'm going to stop sharing. We're going to go live really quickly here, which is always scary. And let me reshare with a different screen. Lori, why don't you tell them what they're going to see?
Okay, what we're going to do is take a look at how you can find this number starting with a product.
Okay, hopefully you're looking at the up in the upper left, United States Census Bureau, Schedule B search engine.
Yep.
Awesome, fantastic. So I understand we've got 27 or so peeps out there. Would someone put into the chat some product that we can look at? And by the way, we can do services as well. There's more data on products, but hey, the United States has a trade surplus in services, architecture, engineering, tourism, all exportable services. But you can find for tractor, classify. And so it gets us into a decision tree. And is it a road tractor or other type of tractor? We will go with other. Let's see what that does. Is it for track laying or other? And then how powerful is it? And so you need to know a little bit about the horsepower. And by the way, everything in international trade is in metric or some other method, not the imperial system. And so you've got to know what it is in kilowatts. And don't worry about this. We're just kind of showing you. We're not going to have the exact right one for your product. I'm sure whoever put in tractor, but we're just showing you this process of drilling down to get this number. And so we've got tractors, other, not track laying or whatever, and exceeding 18 kilowatts, but not exceeding 37 kilowatts. And this is the number that we're after. 87, I'm going to write it down, 8701.92 is the harmonized tariff schedule number. From that, I'm going to get another tab open here. And by the way, we're going to send you a handout. We're going to make sure that Jeff and Kat have a handout with all the links that you're going to see here. But there is a tool that we're going to dive into next called the market diversification tool. And Lori, why don't you introduce that, and I'll get us started on the the numbers.
Thank you, and I apologize, my camera died. So just continuing the theme of technical difficulties. So this is a tool from the International Trade Administration that I really like. You can pull up information incredibly quickly, get some ranked markets to look at. What you need to have is just a couple of basic pieces of information. This is a tool that's set up for people that are already doing some exporting. You don't need to be doing a lot, but this is something where we can enter that information. We can do a search by country, by regions of the globe, and get some really interesting ranked results in about 2 minutes.
Fantastic. So we've got the commodity code. I put RZIP just to make it easier. Let's say you're already exporting to Canada and Mexico, because those are quite common for Kansas businesses. Those are the top two. And let's see what we can get. This is how fast this thing can be. This is for a company, as Lori said, that's already done some exporting, and you want to find your next market. And boom, this thing spits out a ranked list. I'm going to write a few of these down while you talk about this, Lori.
And also, John, if you wouldn't mind opening up one or two of them so that we can take a look at the information. It explains where the ranking comes from. And so it gives you some information about exports and imports. It gives you some information about whether it's easy to enforce contracts, whether there are legal issues, whether there are logistic issues. So you have an explanation of where the ranking came from. And as we look at some of the other tools, we're also going to be getting some rankings that are based on different information. And so it's interesting to compare which countries are coming up at the top on multiple lists and what the considerations are that have gone into those rankings. Thank you, John.
No, well, you're welcome. Great. And, you know, I love to go into this process with an open mind. Netherlands is awesome, great country. Never would have thought they would have been one of the top import targets for tractors. I mean, who knew, right? But with that in mind, so we've gotten some information already very quickly. I want to show you where we're going to get our top 20, the other stuff. We subscribe to something called Trade Map, the ITC Trade Map. And again, we can look at services, we can look at products, we can look at imports or exports. We're going to look at imports of products around the world. So we're going to put that number that we have, 87192. There we go. Tractors, there we go. Same nomenclature. Tractors of an engine power between 18 and 37 kilowatts. And you can see again, here's the Netherlands again, France, all those same big players that we just saw on that other thing. This is going to give us a bigger list, and I'm going to go to trade indicators. And boom, we've got a list of the top 20 countries in the world that import tractors. So I'm going to write a few of these down. We saw Germany before, Canada. We suspected. And
Netherlands is in the top again. It's not the very top, but that's one that you should include also.
Yeah. Sri Lanka. Again, who knew? Sweden. Okay. I'm sorry. Sweden. Czech Republic. Bangladesh. Poland, Australia. Okay. We got a few of them. And again, we work with 20 sometimes. Just to keep things easy. So what else can you look at this? What can you find from this? You get some actionable data on tariffs, for example. And so even though Indonesia cracks the top 20, they also impose a 14.1% tariff, which is going to make the price of that tractor perhaps untenable for your customers there. Let's see. Some of these don't have any tariffs at all, so we'd be looking at those. Most of them are relatively low. Vietnam, though, nearly 5%. So those are considerations. You also get some indications on how many they're bringing in. I mean, a lot of these things are in tons. And so Germany, for example, is bringing in 17,000 tons of tractors. And so you really get an indication of the market size, and also sometimes an indication of varying prices. Because if you look at Germany and Canada, for example, Canada is spending another 50% more per ton, basically, of tractors coming in. Now, that's really 36,000 foot view of things. But when you start to look at something like this and you see Well, that's units. Spain, let's see, what's the lowest here? About 6,000. Who was that? Indonesia. Indonesia, okay, they cracked the top 15 perhaps, but they're doing 6,300 per ton, whereas Canada is doing 15,000. So you start to see maybe we can get a little bit more money. There's something out there called a Big Mac index, where it takes a look at the price of the Big Mac throughout the world. And I think Sweden or Switzerland pays the most for a Big Mac of anywhere in the world. You're looking at local buying power. So boom, we've got a list of, let's say the top, I wrote down about 15, and I'll show you how we're going to use that. We're going to go to a tool that I love, which is Michigan State University, Global Edge. Again, you haven't paid a penny for any of this stuff, right? This stuff is just out there. Global Edge out of Michigan State University is just a tremendous tool, and we're going to look at only two things from there today. We're going to look at their country comparator. And yes, we would like the latest data, please. And so when we start to talk about who would be a great target market for tractors, for example, we're going to need some infrastructure. We're going to need some rail and some roads to move these things around, right? If you get into a place that doesn't have good rail and doesn't have good roads, we're going to have some logistical problems. In some businesses, I've got a client that's doing educational products, and she needs to market to people. We're looking at mobile cell phone subscriptions or broadband subscriptions. But for this, we're probably looking at railways, perhaps, and total rail lines. You can expand any of these things. We can choose up to 5, by the way. We can look at the labor force, not too interested in that for our purposes. People in terms of population. Okay, let's find a big country, right? I'm not interested in the youngins in this case, or urban per se, but let's just go with population. Not too many concerns about health or government or education. Let's see, we've got 2 more. Let's take a peek perhaps at gross domestic product. How much money do they have per person, for example? And let's choose our 5th one and just take a look at how much do they import, for example. So really quickly, we've chosen 5 parameters in a target country, prospective country. And this is just really quick. And then the hard part, doing this live, is choosing those 20. So we've got Czech Republic. Let's see if I can get this in some sort of course not.
Did you have Australia?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That would help. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Already marked.
Germany.
Germany. Yeah.
Netherlands.
Oh, there. You put them in alphabetical order for me. I love this partner. Sorry, this is where great to do things live, but where it gets to be France, we'll go back to there because we had those in there. The Netherlands we got from the other list. UK, of course, all the way at the bottom. Poland. And we might stop after the UK just to show you what we're looking at here. Poland, Bangladesh, Czech, Sweden. Why not? We're close by. Sweden and France, UK, Sri Lanka. Because okay, bammo. So we've chosen 9. You can have up to 20, but for our purposes to keep this moving along, we'll do that. Hit the compare button. And boom, you get this interactive chart. Now, Sri Lanka was on the top from one of the tools we looked at, but, not a lot of railways, for sure. Certainly lagging Germany in a big way in terms of imports, right? Lagging in terms of gross domestic product. And, they got some people, got 22 million people. But when you look at this just really quickly, Germany starts to really stand out here. Australia has a bunch of rail because they got a lot of space. So again, this is just a quick way of trying to narrow this list down to something actionable. And again, if this were 20 strong, we'd have a lot more choices here. But let's just go ahead and we're looking at, Germany, maybe the Netherlands, Sweden perhaps is still a good one, although a very small population. UK, UK strong. So let's go with the top 3. UK, Germany, and Netherlands. All right, we're down to those. And let's find out what else we have at Global Edge. And the other one is called their Market Potential Index. This is just one of many tools that we have here. Market Potential Index is not looking at tractors. It's industry agnostic, so it's not looking specifically at tractors, but it's just looking at the overall market in terms of how big is it, how much is it growing, how much are they buying, what's the infrastructure. Here we go again with cell phones and paved roads and broadband stuff. How receptive are they to imports from the United States? Economic freedom, country risk. You know, you might have a great market, Venezuela, plenty of money, but my gosh, it's kind of challenging to go there, right? You're not going to get paid perhaps. And so we can take a look at these things rather quickly. And boom, we start to see, this is just overall China, a big honking market. Let's take a look at our favorites here. We had the Netherlands in the top in number 9, Germany for number 10. So we've got some data that, yes, they buy tractors, they buy imports. Our parameters seem to be checking out. But by golly, they're also just really good markets to go into. UK was listed on there as well, Australia, France. And so we're seeing those in some of in the top, say, 15 or 20 countries in the world that are receptive to products. Again, industry agnostic, but kind of handy. So Lori, I'm going to.
And again, John, when we start seeing some correlations between the lists, that's already starting to help us narrow things down to the countries that we might want to do some further research on if we decide to go further. John?
Absolutely. Hopefully you are seeing your slide on free trade agreements.
Nope.
I love live.
So anyway, after we go through and, start getting some of these commonalities that we've been talking about, one of the things that we want to do is just look at whether we have a free trade agreement with the countries, and also we can go in and look at what the focus of the free trade agreement is. So for example, does the free trade agreement have a focus on agriculture and increasing the exchange of agricultural goods and agricultural manufactured products and agricultural technologies?
And I'm sorry, I tried to save again, but somebody give me a heads up of what they're seeing right now. Are they looking at this?
We're still seeing the market potential index.
Killing me. All right, let me.
Actually, we see the free trade agreement.
Free trade agreements.
Oh, okay. So it must be my computer's frozen.
Okay. Let me get that back.
It was just removed.
Yeah, I know.
There you go.
I took her word for it, Jeff.
Now we're good.
Sorry.
She outranks me now. I got to go with it. Some other useful indicators of demand, just really quick for those quick wins. If you've got Google Analytics, and by golly, you really should to know what's going on with your website, you can take a look, for example, at where people are in the world that are finding your website and try to get some indications there. This is purely coincidence. This is our local JCCC SBDC website, but we're actually being looked at by the Netherlands, UK, and Germany as well, and Canada. So ours matches. You can throw a search term into Google Trends. I use custom guitars because I play badly, but you could do tractors and that and find again trends in demand, search demand, where they're searching from. That's bad English. So for custom guitars, it's Australia. Who knew? Finland, Sweden. So again, really quick results. So this is something that you can use yourself for your board, for your boss, for your internal stuff. You've already got a really great indication of the top 3 markets. We know Germany, the Netherlands, and the UK are looking really strong here, and help you decide whether you want to move forward on that. So that is the quick side of this, and then we can talk a little bit about diving deep. Lori, you want to discuss when they might want to do that?
So if you're an advisor who's working with a business, one of the things that you want to be using is, are you seeing market potential here? Are the clients really seeming interested and motivated and inspired to get some information. If you've given them some homework assignments to follow up on this research, are they following up on it? And then if you're on the small business side, one of the things that you want to be doing is thinking about, all right, are you already starting to feel overwhelmed, or is this something that's seeming like it's really interesting to you and that you see potential and that you're willing to put some effort into coming up with a strategic plan and a business plan for expanding your business. So the next thing that we're going to do is take a look at how you can get some further information to help you make judgments about what you're willing to pursue, help you make some decisions along the way about what are good next steps to take, and also the resources that are going to help you along the way.
And this is going to be a whirlwind tour because we're probably down to about 10 minutes, but we just kind of want to, and you're not going to be able to act on some of this stuff in that short a time frame, but we want to see the depth. We want to show you the depth of what's available out there. I'm a huge believer in trade.gov from the International Trade Administration, and what they have is just amazing. I mean, your industry, you can research by industry, you can research by country in there. They've got top markets, and so agricultural equipment, for example, and don't worry, this is an old slide. They update this far more frequently than 2017. I promise you, we've been using this for a while. But again, with the tractor example, you can find out from the ITA what top markets are out there and discussing that. Trade Desk, I'll let you take Trade Stats Express if you like, Lori. We'll go ping pong here.
Okay, so sorry, this is a little hard to do without looking at the slide on the computer. But there's, again, lots of information that you can get looking at it by industry, and also looking at the types of factors that are relevant to you. So as John was demonstrating to you when we were looking at the tools from MSU, one of the things that you want to be doing is thinking about, okay, for the particular type of product or the particular type of service that you would be exporting, what are the factors that are going to be relevant to your success, to your having a market in those countries? And then you can use these tools for helping to do a deeper dive on understanding those markets.
Yeah, Trade Stats Express is really great because it takes a look at who's buying what from Kansas, for example. So we find out who the trade partners are and what they're buying. And you don't, a lot of times you don't need to go far. Mexico and Canada are Kansas's biggest trading partner, but again, this lets you see who's actually buying it. So Mexico and Canada, for example, are big up there. Japan, China, South Korea. Here's Germany and the UK again. So two of our best prospects are already buying from the state. The World Bank, oh my gosh, is just enormous. This is thousands probably of indicators. I was using this for years and was focusing on this featured indicators side of this thing. I didn't even notice, and that has hundreds of things. I didn't even notice that they had all indicators over here with even more information. But starts with agriculture and rural development, but you get into education, infrastructure, the economy, health, political issues. Just I think we've got a quick example. I think, Lori, it's going to be literacy.
Yeah, the agriculture and rural development. So again, in term that the tractors was a great example. There's all kinds of information that you can pull up here to do a search that's going to give you information by country, for example, on crop production, arable land, how much livestock production is going on, and then also all the way to information such as the example that John has here is literacy rates. So, John, let's take a look at the next tool.
You got it, and that's the UN Comtrade database.
Okay, so UN Comtrade database tracks data on merchandise shipments. You can get information, for example, searching by Incoterms, searching by by gross weight. There's also a lot of interesting information that you can pull up about, for example, how recent events are affecting international trade. You can look at particular topics such as food security, and this has just got a tremendous amount of information that you can use on this site.
Yeah, and to be able to, once we have our assumptions, right, we're assuming that we're going to see some market potential in the Netherlands, Germany, UK. We can use this to actually see what the shipments are like and double check that things are going on in the way that we perceive. One of our colleagues, Maurice Kogan, has been in international trade for decades, and he has basically distilled decades of experience into the Trade Compliance Institute with over 900 links that are extraordinarily well organized. This dude did it. I don't know how you would do 900 links and get them organized, but he managed to do it. And so again, food and agriculture products research is a top level menu item from his website when we get into foreign market research. So this is basically, like I said, the brain of one of the smartest dudes in international trade that you can get on a extraordinarily well organized website. And surprisingly, I'll let Lori talk about the CIA World Factbook, which is a surprising resource.
Yeah, so this is something that's one of my favorite tools for thinking about how you're going to visualize the market that you're going to be getting into. So we've been pulling up lots of statistical information, but the statistical information itself doesn't necessarily give you a feel for what that market's going to look like. So the CIA Factbook, you can go in and get some really interesting information about the history, the people, the government. These might be things, for example, that are really relevant to you for thinking about who you're going to be dealing with in terms of your customers and your distributors. Also, like information that you should have to show that you have an understanding of the market when you have conversations with the people. It's got really great one-page country summaries. It's got, again, information that helps you really get more of a feel for what that market is going to be looking like after, on the basis of some statistical information, you've started to narrow things down.
We got Algeria on the screen right now: environment, government, economy, energy. And by the way, Jeff early on mentioned the Governor's Exporter of the Year, and we'd love to have one of y'all nominated and win that. One of the early winners determined through this tool that Poland was an excellent market for their grain dryers, and now sells more grain dryers in Poland than they do in the domestic U.S. market, which is amazing. And they use the CIA World Factbook for that, for their research. So the way we're going to use this data, I'm an Excel guy. I don't make pretty websites, but they're effective. And so we would take all this data and distill it down to an Excel spreadsheet. We would work with you to determine those parameters. What makes a good market? How heavily are we going to weight those parameters so they're not all evenly weighted? So I'll show you an example of that really quick. We take a look at some of the other indicators. Again, you might have had a trade show and some interest. You might have had some website traffic or correspondence. You've got all these great. If you think about bringing this to your boss, bringing this to a bank to say, Mrs. Lender, I need, if we're going to do this, I need $500,000 for export working capital loan. When you've got this data to put it into your business plan or your business case, save those screenshots, right? Because you can use them internally for your board, you can use them for your boss, you can use them for someone that's going to lend. This is, again, one of my ugly spreadsheets, but we were looking at a food product from one of our clients. And we took a look at just how much was imported, merchandise imports, how much they imported for food, food per capita, it was barbecue related, let's put it that way. And so we looked at pork consumption, beef consumption, chicken consumption, other proteins. We looked at overall population, per capita gross domestic product to make sure they had enough money. and that market potential index. And again, we discussed with the client how we're going to weight that stuff. So we weighted the market potential index at 10% per capita gross domestic product, because this was a consumer product. We had to make sure people had some cash to buy it. We weighted twice as much at 20%. And we came up with a short list over here, starting with Qatar, UAE, Luxembourg, Kuwait. And this was an early thing, by the way. There's something that we do a little bit differently. We standardize these numbers to 100. So in other words, the largest population is 100, because if you don't do, and then one that's half of that population is 50. If you don't do that, then these really big numbers blow things out. So I think I did that behind the scenes on this, but I want to make sure that you understand that's best practice, because otherwise you'll get China with this enormous population that just blows everything out of the water. But this starts to bring some science to this data and really gets us to order those top 3 or top 5, so that you can present an executive summary. We would present this to the client, or again, you would present this to the boss, your lender. That look, the top 5 markets look like these. This is what we looked at with the weights. And in this case, the Middle East is really showing up here. They got a lot of money and they import everything, right? So that looks like a compelling argument for moving forward on this. One thing that just came to us recently, courtesy of the World Trade Center, is the Global Trade Help Desk, Lori. So I'll let you. I know you've played with this.
Yeah, so this is a tool that is set up in partnership with several different partners for helping small to medium-sized enterprises. And it helps you to compare the demand for products. It helps you compare tariffs. It helps you compare market conditions. You can use it to get information about buyers and business partners. The purpose of it is to help you evaluate opportunities across markets. It's, again, another tool that you can use to get a ranked market a selection, again, starting with the information that you have with your HS code. So this is a sample of information that you can get about the ranked markets. And then, John, can we have the next slide?
You can.
And then the market intelligence is really a great tool. There's information by countries where you can get executive summaries that give you really useful information to help you, again, after you've narrowed down your markets, you can use this information to start making some decisions about which one or two or couple you think that you're going to start with, and what the steps are going to be that you're going to be taking. So here are some industry-specific information, just some examples of some of the types of reports that you can get through this market intelligence.
And this is also part of the trade.gov website. They have extensive information. And by the way, Kansas Commerce just ran a fabulous report for one of my clients on bringing her product into a country. And it was extraordinarily professional, and they can take that thing to the bank, literally, and get the money that they need to expand. But also out of trade.gov, Lori mentioned the executive summary. That is one tab of about, a dozen over here. This is right down to the country and the product. So I was working with a client who was looking at Brazil, challenging, but again, money, and she had a medical product. And so this talks about the healthcare policy issues. You've got how to enter that market, what's going on in the market, how big is the market, who are there for the competition, the demand. This is a how-to manual for how to enter that market. So once we've narrowed down, again, the paradigm is 20 down to 5 or 3, and now let's look at how we're going to do this. This is your instruction manual for moving forward, which is amazing that all this stuff is out there absolutely for free. The next step, frequently, once you know where you're going to go, is Kansas Department of Commerce. They've got some people all over the world, basically. They've got STEP grants that can pay for services such as the U.S. Commercial Service, because it's great. John, that's wonderful. We now know Netherlands, the UK, Germany are top markets. We've looked at the thing. It looks like we're going to move forward with the Netherlands. I know nobody there. The U.S. Commercial Service does. They've got people there. And again, Kansas Commerce has, this is a screaming deal at about $1,400 for their Gold Key service, which will facilitate meetings, translation, or interpretation, sorry. Make sure that you find vetted distributors and partners in the Netherlands, for example. There's a small fee for that, and Commerce can pay for that, which is just amazing. That and more. Trade shows. Here we go. Lori, I got the Kansas Commerce stuff right up there. Let's plug our sponsors here.
John and I have both worked with clients with Kansas Department of Commerce, and the market intelligence that you can get through the reports that you can get through Kansas Department of Commerce are really just so incredibly useful. Also, if you have an opportunity to go on one of the trade missions, that's something else that we would also like to give a plug for. And then John was just talking about the STEP grants, and also, we've had clients take advantage of KitMap and KitSAP grants, and these are really very useful for helping businesses get started.
Yeah, putting your website in the local language. Luckily, we don't have to do that too much for the UK, but you certainly do it for the Netherlands and Germany, and even the UK has their own lingo for everything.
And then finally, we would like to wrap up by introducing you to the Trade Passport recorded trainings through NASBite. You can use 20 of them for free. If you want unlimited access, it's $149 for a year. This has trainings on both the export and the import side, everything from pricing, documentation, product adaptation, cross-cultural practices, contracts, insurance, trade compliance, supply chain issues. So this is a place where you can go and at your own pace, on your own schedule, do some education, self-education, to help you be better prepared for working with your team, and also help reinforce some of the ideas and understand some of what you're getting from working with the resource partners.
It's just amazing what's out there at no cost to our businesses. So what you get out of this basically is whether it's a quick win, you got a great report, and frankly, that's usually enough for most bosses and most banks. But if you want to dive into more data, then you see some of the other things, the indicators from World Bank, for example, the other tools that we can bring to bear, and you can really create a compelling business case for moving into that market for selling tractors in the Netherlands or the UK or Germany. And you've even got the how-to manual and some indications of how you're going to find some vetted agents and distributors and partners in those countries to move ahead. What we're looking for is useful data. We want to be able to share it with lenders, because if you get a big honking order for 500 tractors, you're probably going to need some cash. The SBA has export working capital loans. If you need to expand your plant to create those tractors, they've got Export Express loans to do that. And when you go to other partners such as the U.S. Commercial Service, you've got the homework. You've done the homework. We've done that with you, and there's a compelling reason to be looking at those three markets. And so they're going to welcome you as a great prospect client. We want you to be successful, and all of us, especially the Kansas Department of Commerce, want economic impact for this state. That's why we're here. We are trying to get Kansas businesses as strong as possible. By golly, Lori, we made it to the last slide somehow. And basically, we want to thank you for your. For viewing this today, your participation on this. I do promise you that I'm intrigued by those products that you brought up so we'll get the chat thing. We'll try to do a little bit of homework behind the scenes. Sorry we took the easy path of tractors, but when you do things live, it's difficult to do something you can't even spell. Okay. But
well, and my apologies. First day in a new office with a new computer and just didn't have time to practice. So thank you for your understanding.
But that's Lori's brand new email address. By the way, that's an underscore. It's an L and an underscore. They gave her perhaps the worst email address they could possibly give her. But L_Piper@FortHays-State-University.edu. I'm going to stop sharing for a bit here. And Jeff's got his hand up. Yes, sir.
I am ready to go. Well, I just want to say thank you very much to both of you. I think anybody, whether they're a seasoned exporter or just thinking about starting to export, they realize that you truly have a handle on a whole host of resources that can be quite useful. I always, John, over the years, I've seen you work very nimbly with the information that's available on the web, and indeed you've both outshone yourselves, I think, today, because there's so much more stuff that I really hadn't drilled down into, even though I have quite a lot of familiarity with this kind of information. So again, I want to thank both of you for what you did. Let's see what you presented today. Let's see if we have any questions that come in. In the meantime, I'll reiterate what I heard you say earlier, and that is you're going to go ahead and provide us with a sheet of the appropriate links that we can then send out to attendees so that they can follow up. Of course, at any time, folks can review this webinar. We record it, and so it's available up on our website, as are a whole host of other earlier webinars that we've done. And so I encourage you to take a look at that, follow up on what you might have. And so speaking of following up, can you maybe, and whether it's John or Lori, whoever may take this question, and maybe now that Lori is the assistant director, maybe John, you have to take this. It's sort of the boots on the ground kind of thing. But if you're going to be having a new encounter with a Kansas business, can you just give us a quick idea about some of the steps you go through? My guess is you kind of find out their level of export experience, move to how quickly might that happen? What's the best way to get in touch with what I think is a wonderful resource here in the state, the Small Business Development Centers, because you really do add so much value like this, like we saw today, for companies. But how might they begin that process of reaching out, and what might they expect it to entail in terms of the sort of timeline and or the process, and what do you look for out of them?
Oh, thanks, Jeff. We can send, as part of the follow-up, when I send it to Kat and to you with the handout, we'll send the link, and the link works statewide, I believe. You can work with any office. On the international trade stuff, I think Lori and I are the peeps, though, so it'll eventually get back to us. An existing business, it's just as fast as we can get you on the calendar. I'm typically about a week out, and I'm sure Lori is pretty similar. If it's a brand new business that's never done anything, in our office, we have them take a startup class or just the simplest, like one-page business plan, so we know what we're working with. But for an existing business, there's nothing like that. We get them right in and discuss this. And then it's a situation of taking them through the steps that you saw and getting it down to what makes a good prospective country. It is absolutely at no direct cost to the client, because Kansas Commerce, SBA, and our colleges, our associated schools, have already paid the bill for this. We just are here to help you grow.
And then if I could add to what John said, this isn't an either or situation. It's not you work with the Small Business Development Center or you work with Kansas Department of Commerce. The services that we have available through the SBDC are pretty holistic. So, if a company wants to work with us on this, but also work with us on some access to capital issues, we can be there as a continuous resource and help the business work with Kansas Department of Commerce and help them access the programs and be better supported when they go to the Kansas Department of Commerce.
Well, fantastic. I really appreciate that plug. That is really the case. all of us that are in this space trying to help companies grow internationally and expand their exports, whether it's the Kansas Department of Commerce, the Small Business Development Centers under the SBA, the SBA itself, we utilize those STEP resources that have been referred to several times. We certainly have a great relationship with the U.S. Department of Commerce and what they offer. As you saw, many of their web-based resources today, the Wichita office with AJ Anderson or Josh Kaplan out of the Kansas City office, and then of course World Trade Center in Kansas City, as well as Kansas Global Trade in Wichita. So there are a whole host of players. We all have different roles, but we all work together. And so please don't hesitate as you look to being able to either enter the market of exporting or again expand your exports to different markets. Please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us because we do stay in touch with each other. But again, I think today the subject of our presentation, what international market research resources are available, and what we were able to understand here from the presentations of both John Edesi and Dr. Lori Piper, really I think filled in a lot of background that all of us can continue to make use of. There was one quick question that came into chat during the course of your manipulating some of the resources there, John. Really, and it's more generic in general, maybe no longer applicable, but I'm nevertheless going to pose it. And that was, how often are the statistics updated that you encounter? How does that work? I mean, clearly there's going to be a range. I know that we're always trying to get the latest statistics, but in fact are behind by a couple of months typically in terms of what we can get. But how would you answer that question, John?
That's a great question and very relevant because we did see like it was an older screen that I've been using. I'm looking right now at the ITC Trade Map where we developed that list of the top 20, and they're looking at 2021 data on there. So within a couple of years, basically. And I realize things have changed, but and I'm sure they'll switch to 2022 data very quickly. But they're looking maybe a year to a year and a half back. The market potential index was, I believe, 2022 data. Yes, changes for 2022. Dimensions and measures of market potential for 2022. So that's not bad. We're only a few months into 2023.
Okay, well that's good. I don't know, Lori, did you want to add something?
Well, and then I was going to say, some of that is going to depend on what tool you're using. But for example, several of them have information about how recent events are affecting trade. And so, when there's something that's, important that's happening globally, that's something that's going to be getting tracked and getting updated more frequently.
Yeah, we certainly find that to be the case. The resource that we use to provide our trade statistics for 2022, we just basically in February got the final take on that. We're able to update the information on our website, but it's typically at least a couple months behind. But depending upon how much integration they want to do or how many other kinds of analytic overlays they want to apply, and really, quite honestly, perhaps their available labor force at this time, things can be a little bit in arrears. But fortunately, these sites, I know, take every effort to try to provide the most recent data as best as possible. And so it is a mixed bag, but I know that there are good efforts to be able to make it as updated as possible. Well, I'm looking at the chat box here, and I don't have any other questions that have come in the interim here. And so what we will do is go ahead, as I say, and pass out the link information that we talked about earlier to everybody who is signed up for this event. And again, I encourage you to look at the recording because we did move through things fairly quickly. And then lastly, don't hesitate to reach out to me, my team here at the Kansas Department of Commerce, or any of the other folks we've talked about, and certainly either John or Lori at the Small Business Development Centers. So with that, unless our guests have anything else that they want to add, I think we may be wrapping this up.
No, we just thank you for the opportunity to reach Kansas businesses. We got some great stories out there. We want you to be new success stories and Governor Exporter of the Year award winners.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both. Very much appreciated this session. I'm going to go back and look at the recording. I know that because you did go through some of this, and it's all very useful for anybody involved in day-to-day activities as well as longer-term planning. So again, I want to thank both of you for making this presentation, and I look forward to hearing from any company in Kansas that is interested in following up. And with that, let's call it a wrap. Thank you, everybody.